Hello, and welcome to the Passion on Purpose Leaders on Center Stage podcast. I am Steph, and I'm the owner and creative director at VIM. VIM's mission is to showcase the enthusiasm and passion of business leaders nationwide. I cannot wait to have you listen to the show, and stick around. At the end, we talk a little bit about how you can be my next guest. All right, we are back with another episode of the Passion on Purpose Leaders on Center Stage podcast. I'm so excited to have our leader today on center stage, Echo Summerhill. She's challenging me here with the creatrix of Soul Up. I mean, the creatrix? I love this. Like, you are already getting into my creative juices bones, and I love it. So we're going to do as we always do. We are going to dive right on in with my hard-hitting question. Are you ready, Echo?
I'm here for it.
All right. What is your why?
I love this question. Through my own, it's obviously multifaceted, but through my own experiences in life and hardships and trials and tribulations and where I came from to where I am now, I honestly feel that I do what I do because, and why, the big why is because there is nothing more freeing than connecting as I did to my own power and sovereignty and really releasing the external shoulds of the world and the collective programming. And so I do this because, to me, I know the freedom that I feel within. And so to help other women really feel that freedom, and a lot of times the inner peace that they've never felt before in their life, it fuels me on a soul level.
I love that.
Yeah.
So obviously, right, there's a lot we could dive into, but you had shared, alluded to, some of your own journey. So through that journey, where did you get this passion for giving that freedom to other women and men? Maybe, I'm sorry, I don't want to assume women and men.
Yeah, I know. I just work with women.
Okay.
I exclusively work with women, but that's a good question. I always say my soul gifted me with this, and God gifted me this as a young age. Growing up very independent, I come from a background that's very traumatic and full of like hardships, and I was always not only taking care of myself, but taking care of others. And so with that, as I got older, I started to heal those pieces of me that felt I had to take care of people, but the underlying like soul purpose was still there to be a light and to really help other women step into this version of themselves. And so I truly believe it's like a gift from God. It's just in me. It's this passion to really help other women, like ignite this within them. It's just something that's innate. It wasn't taught. It was probably programmed, like I said, from a young age to serve other people. But as I got older and healed myself, I realized that, this is a huge part of why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said from like a young age that you feel like this was probably programmed. So at what stage, and let's maybe try to tie it to like women.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of parallels that, like, I remember being young and having some role to play for maybe my parents, let's say. But at what stage in your childhood do you first look back to that you were serving women in some way? Maybe not in the way you do with Soul Up, but in some way.
Oh, that's a big question. And for me, honestly, and this is really deep, but for me, it was taking care of my mom. Yeah. I grew up in an alcoholic and an addiction family. And from a very young age, from the age of 4, I was making my own breakfast. I burned down the kitchen twice. I was making sure she was okay. And that sounds so like messed up, but I know that was part of my path to not only learn and a deepen compassion and understanding for the brokenness that some of us humans can experience. All of us have experienced at one time or another, but to really learn how to care for other people and care for myself. But what shifted, as I got older, and especially in the last 5 years, is I've really taken on a journey to prioritize taking care of myself first. So I'm always helping others from an overflow. Like I'm not helping others, you know, to fulfill myself. I'm fulfilled, I'm whole, and I have so much left to give.
Wow. Okay, so there's so many of us who are natural, and I say us, and I'm thinking of women.
Sure.
I'm thinking of many amazing women in my life, and so many of us fill and provide to others and give to others. I'm not saying not from a place of overfill, but almost as a fulfillment.
100%.
Slight difference. So dive into how they're different and how you help, and you know, what tips you would give on finding out the differences and getting to that overfill place, because that's I've never had someone speak about the overfill. I love that.
Yeah. And again, this has really been the deepened part of my path the last 5 years, is to prioritize myself and to really get to the root of what I desire. Because for so long, you know, I'm 38 years old now, but for most of my life, I was giving out of seeking value. Telling somebody, you know, needing somebody to pat me on the back, needing somebody to tell me that I was good enough, you know, all this external validation that a lot of times is this, even if we don't consciously think about it, we're subconsciously programmed to do for others so that we are loved, so that we are liked, so that we're the good person. And especially as women, and I work with a lot of high achieving women that are also moms that are, you know, they give. And it's very rare in the beginning of this awakening journey for some women. It's like really stepping back and go, what do I want? You know, because the over giving is from a place of needing something from someone else, because it does serve our ego. The giving, just when you're overfilled, you're overflowing with all you need, you're whole, you feel complete, is from pure heart space. It's purely heart-centered. It's because you actually enjoy it, not expecting a pat on the back, not expecting to feel valued or loved from this person, but because you actually truly just genuinely want to give. And that goes, you know, as a mom myself, it's like that goes for your kids too. And us women, I think, are told to be the good little girls for so long, never say no. And like, you always give, to be a giver. And I am a giver. People know me, my closest people of the world. Like, I love to give. But the difference is now I give because I just love it. Whereas before I loved it with a side of ego that was like, tell me I'm good enough. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me that you love me. You know, so there's this different energy. So the overgiving is wrapped up a lot in the ego construct, and the giving is the heart centered.
Wow. And how is one to not feel almost guilty of recognizing what we're talking about in this moment of, wow, okay, I feel like I'm a good, beautiful woman in all the ways that I am. And I do give a lot, but I've never associated it with the need for something in return. And now I'm sitting in this feeling. How do we start to push past that? Without, I know, like, there's a whole program with Soul Up, and there's a movement that you've created. So I know there's no way we could tap into this in the 25-ish minutes we're going to spend together. But what would be some entry point conversations you'd be having with women or having us do with ourselves?
Yeah. So I love that. So for me, it's when these women start to discover this piece of them that has been overgiving from a place of need and lack, really, versus just overflow. It's like, the first thing I want women to understand is that when we are feeling our best, when we feel the most whole and complete version of ourselves, mind, body, soul, and I always say mind, body, soul, business, when we feel in alignment in all of those areas, because we are making sure that we're taking care of our mental state, our emotional state, our spiritual state, we feel in alignment, then we get to give our best to other people. But so often what most of us have done most of our lives is we give out of that place of not alignment, and we're giving half-butt versions of ourselves to
Mhm.
everybody, and they're not even getting our best. So that's why this journey of really coming home to yourself is the most selfless thing you can do, because then the version of you that other people get, whether it's in your business, your family, your kids, your spouse, they get the best version of you. And so really reminding yourself of that as well. And then the next step is open communication with your loved ones, that you've been in a place of overgiving all the time. Can you do this for me? Can you do it? And you're just the one that says yes, right? And when we have these open conversations about really like learning to take care of your well-being more, taking care of yourself more, I always say, when you start to say no,
Yeah.
people are gonna, and you're the one that's been the yes woman, like people are gonna be tousled a little bit. But when you have those boundaries in place and you only say yes when you really mean it, when you really mean it, then you teach yourself that it's okay. And I always say, be okay with temporary discomfort instead of long-term resentment. Because you say yes to something that your whole body's like, no. And what are you doing the whole time? You're ruminating over it. You're ticked off. You're resentful. You're like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. Oh, this stinks. That's more long-term energy leaks. It's like, no, be uncomfortable in this moment. No, but thank you for thinking of me. No, I can't, and learn to set those boundaries. And the only people that don't like to hear no are going to be the people they've always heard yes from you. But also the same people, when they get uncomfortable or triggered by you having boundaries around saying no, are the people that don't have boundaries themselves. So they're just, it's a projection. They're just like, what? You're saying no to me? I don't say no to anybody. You can't do that, and you don't have to do it in a mean way, obviously, but you really got to start setting boundaries to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I recently was told around the concept of boundaries that when you do set boundaries, right? Because it's not like you've always had them and you've just always stuck to them, right? There's a moment where you have to realize that you need to start setting them. But those you're setting them around, or anyone around you who feels them, they're affected by your boundary now, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way, they are affected.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so hard. Even if it's a positive reaction, that's why it's hard to do something, because if you've always been a place of validation seeking, or like you mentioned, of ego, the moment you put these boundaries, they're affected and you're affected by what you get back in return now.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's a real, what damned if you do, damned if you don't moment.
Exactly.
Setting boundaries. So I love that you bring that up. You do something different. I've spoke with so many phenomenal men and women who work in this space, and I love that it comes to me. You do something different with Soul Up. So I want to dive into how it's different. You speak of a movement, you speak of a collective. I want to dive into that on how you do this.
Yeah. So I created Soul Up, which is the Soul Up movement 3 years ago. And it was when I saw something missing in my own world, right? And I went on my spiritual journey 5 years ago. And through that time, I had beautiful mentors. I had beautiful healers that I worked with and all of this, but there was this missing piece. And I was in meditation one day, and I want to backtrack. I've been in the coaching and leadership industry for 12 years. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and even way before that, but I've been in this space, again, helping women, helping people, right? And being a coach and a mentor. But when my spiritual awakening happened and I actually started to, what I call, heal the hustle, I came into this other way of doing my businesses. And Soul Up was a piece of that I saw missing, that I always say I'm a bridge from the spiritual realms to the earthly realms. So I bring a lot of the spirituality in, but I make it make sense. And so in Soul Up, the goal of Soul Up is to really raise the consciousness of the planet by leading women back home to their power and sovereignty. And we focus on mind, body, soul, and business alignment. And there's a few women in our community that aren't really into business, but they're there for all the other stuff, right? And it's really, to me, as a spiritual ascension leader, and a business mentor is being that bridge. And a lot of it for me comes back to a woman discovering her power, knowing her worth without the external world telling her, healing the hustle from like the grind and the push. And I want to say, I do work hard, but the hustle to me, I'm actually writing a book on this, but the hustle to me is the push, force, pull, drag energy, where you're forcing yourself to a goal or an outcome, where it's like, no, why don't you get into alignment and take aligned action? Yes. And move the steps. So we dissect all of that in Soul Up, and we're international. We have women from all over the world, and it's so beautiful. Just all walks of life coming together with the main focus of bettering themselves and to really discovering who they are, minus all the filters and masks. And I'm talking about energetic filters and energetic masks and valences and all of the things, right? And they actually discover that they always had the power, and they were always connected to their sovereignty. They've just been handing it away for so long.
You said a couple things that I want to touch on. And I'm going to go backwards, but first you say grind, force. We were speaking of hustle, and you said like the grind,
force. Yeah. Push, pull, force, drag, grind.
Pull, force, drag energy.
Yeah.
Versus the celebrated hustle. You know, I love actually though that I say celebrated, but I think I'm seeing a big shift, at least the energy and the sphere that I'm in. I'm seeing a great shift in recognizing the difference. So I wanted you to talk on that. And then the second thing was, and maybe they can tie all in, but since I am an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, so many of the listeners are either in the entrepreneur space or very career oriented. And so business, that mind, body, business piece is super important for the listeners on this show.
Yeah.
I keep going back to this idea, and I know I'm kind of asking a lot in once, but just roll with however you want. Do we ask too much of ourselves?
100%, 100 million %. Yeah.
Right.
And so it kind of goes back to our original conversation just, 10 minutes ago. It's like and when I say heal the hustle, it's about the hustle comes from seeking things outside of ourselves because the world tells us to, or because we're seeking validation, because we don't, if we didn't see all of this outside, which is good, there's a healthy version of that, right? Inspiration is, but then you go into comparison and competition and all this. So the hustle, the force, push, pull, drag energy, that is the unhealthy way to work, because it always, and I was there, and multiple times, and almost every high achieving woman I work with has endured burnout, and not burnout like, oh, I'm tired, burnout in disease, addiction. Like, I mean, it can wreck your life. The pressure is so heavy. And a lot of that is because we don't know our power and our sovereignty. And so we've got it all out here. And so, yes, we put that pressure to be the best, to be perfect, to be top, And one of the beautiful things that my mentor said that really, really struck a chord with me. And she was like, you don't want to be the best. You want to be one of the greats. And it was like that in itself, we're always comparing, and in this competition with everything and everyone outside of ourselves on Instagram, or, in your circle, in your community and business. But when you actually tune back in, it's like, oh, okay, I'm worthy just for existing. A baby doesn't come out and you go, okay, you're worthy. But by the time you're 10, you're only worthy if you get a job and you do this and you do that and you make this much money. When you're 20, like, we do that.
Right.
So, but it is a lot. That's why the journey starts with us. We can't expect anybody else to fix us. We have to do the internal work, because it is our own pressure that we're putting on ourselves. Because honestly, half the world, more than half the world, even in your little world, doesn't care how much money you make, doesn't care what your goals are, it's all our own pressure.
Yeah. No one is going to work as hard for any of the things you care about as you.
Right.
And no one's going to care as hard as you.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's hard to like come to terms with, I think, when you are a giver.
Yes.
When you give so much and you care so much about others. That is also a realization that I think sometimes sits weird.
And that's where like the deep healing comes. And that's like a lot of the spiritual work and energetic work I do. It's like going back and really decoding and reprogramming how you got validation, how you felt your worth in the world. Because a lot of, I know for me, being a giver my whole life and still being a huge giver, it's just in the right channel now, right? But so much was just to feel worthy, just to feel good enough. And so once we can heal all of that within us, it's like, then again, you're giving from overflow, and it doesn't burn you out. You don't have resentment. You're not angry at your neighbor for asking you for a dozen cupcakes. If you don't want to, you don't do it. If you do, you do. You know, it's like, it's pure. It's a pure form of giving versus over giving to feel love.
So I'm going to switch gears on us.
Sure.
And I want to ask maybe a hardish question, but I challenge some of the guests on the show occasionally in this idea, this exercise, that the vehicle of giving your why to the world, right? Sharing your passion. Right now, your vehicle is Soul Up. Your vehicle has been coaching. Your vehicle has been in this way of touching women in different ways. Now, let's say this vehicle was not here. You know, it was, the coaching world was banned, or, movements weren't allowed. I know this is such a silly exercise, but roll with me here.
Sure.
What vehicle would Echo be driving to keep living your why if you couldn't do what you do now?
That's such a good question, but it truly, it's not hard to answer. I'll just be me. Like, I know that
it makes me want to cry.
It's true though. And again, that's what I want every woman to feel, is like, I know that just being me, whether without any jewelry, without my hair done, without makeup on, without being on a podcast, without having a social media presence, like, I can be this version of me in the grocery store. I can be this version of me walking down the street to the little girl that's crying on the sidewalk. I can be a light. I can be a light in my own household, right? Which is where it starts with my son and my husband. But more importantly, if I'm focused on being me and being this light, then anywhere I'm at, anything I do is going to be that. I always say it's not in the doing, it's who you be when you do. And so it's like, who are you being in the doing? So I could do anything and I would still be this light, and I would still have this desire to serve in some capacity. Yeah.
I love that. Literally, I was fighting back tears. I love that, because it's just not, it's so simple, yet so hard to grasp and hold on to and keep.
It is.
It is. So I want to wrap up into, I don't know why I can't ask one question at a time. It's always two. Sorry. I want to wrap up with two questions for you to answer. First part, in a nutshell, what is it that Soul does? Listeners are intrigued. They want to dive in more with you, Echo. They want to dive in more. What exactly is it in a nutshell? And then they're interested, they want to dive in. What's a good starting way into diving in with you?
Yeah, I love that. So Soul Up, I say, is a spiritual ascension vortex, again, where we focus on mind, body, soul, and business alignment so that you can come back home to your power and your sovereignty to become the best version of yourself. We have over 3 years of content, anything from master classes on everything that you can imagine, from the spiritual world, the business world. The sacred sisterhood that's cultivated in this community is incredible. Like I said, there's women from all over the world. We have a monthly theme every month that we dive into and really dissect the codes of whatever's coming through, group Zooms. I mean, it's just a really cool place to be if you're looking to discover who you are on a deeper level. We have women that have been with us all 3 years, because as I ascend, the container ascends, and the information grows and the codes deepen and all of the beautiful things. And Soul Up as a whole is the foundation of everything that I do. I still do programs and one-on-one mentorship and all that, but Soul Up is like, it's who I am. I am the Soul Up woman, right? And all the women in there are Soul Up women. And And it's truly just this sacred space that we've cultivated, that we continue to cultivate as we share it more with the world and really open our hearts and our minds to all that's possible for us.
And so when you say membership, this is an online community. Are people working with you one-on-one? Are there small groups? Kind of what's the entry, like the tiers on working with
So Soul Up in my world is, like I said, the foundation. So it's normally where people start with me, and then it goes up to that, to mastermind that I have and one-on-one mentorship. Okay. In Soul Up, they get all access to all my paid programs, master classes, all of that is in their membership. It's a 12-month container, and it's because it's a journey. It's not like you jump in for a month. It's like you take a journey, right? And so Soul Up is the foundation, lowest price point thing that I offer, if you will, that is the foundational work of what I do and how to access my work. Besides, obviously, free content on Instagram, all the places,
Awesome. So obviously a really great starting point with you would be to become a member. I know we had talked off air that you were going to graciously gift the listeners a discount for this membership.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to offer 10% off the Soul Up membership. So, and again, the value is just absolutely incredible as it is. And I can say that as the creator of it, but just the continued transformations and testimonies from the women. And like I said, we really cultivate a sacred sisterhood in this community.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for gifting the listeners the opportunity to come dive in with you. Speaking of social, what's a good way? We're going to put the website link in the show notes, of course, but just take a moment to just share how people can get a hold of you on the socials or all the places you are.
For sure. So the main place, and that's usually where I share everything, is on Instagram, and it's just at Echo Summerhill. So easy peasy.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will make sure that, like I mentioned, all the good stuff's in the show notes. We'll make sure the website's there. Go check out Echo Summerhill on Instagram. I just thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything your heart. I know I asked probably weird, deep questions, but I just love that you were rolling with it.
It was perfect. I don't like surface level anyway, so it was perfect.
I don't either. Hence this show turning the way it's going. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys all later. Steph here. Thank you so much for listening to the Passion on Purpose Leaders on Center Stage podcast. If you are a successful business owner and you lead your business with passion, we'd love to feature you on our show. We'd love to share with the world what makes your business great and how you have intentionally led passion throughout your business. Also, if you got any value or little tidbits from this episode, please take a minute to screenshot the episode and share it on your favorite social media platform. Be sure to tag us so we can properly thank you, and we love deepening our connection with our listeners. We are regularly putting out new episodes to feature leaders such as yourself who lead with passion on purpose. So be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any future episodes. For more episodes, guest information, or details on the show, please visit getvim.com/passion on purpose. That's getvim.com/passion on purpose. Once again, I'm Steph. I am the owner and creative director at Vim, and thank you for listening to the show.